Hello everyone, Luciano Oliveira, Oliveira Lawyers. Today is Wednesday, February the 21st. And here we are, one more live stream. Today I'm going to have a question for you, and you can also have questions for me as usual. But my question for you is, what kind of topics would you like to see here in our channel? As you probably know, we've been traditionally recording technical videos, mostly related to legal stuff, of course. But when we address particularly immigration visas, we kind of chime in with some information, hopefully helpful for expats and foreign citizens in the process of moving to Brazil or with some type of interest in Brazil. So my question is, would you like to know more about ongoing news? Something else we were considering for the channel is to have interviews with our past clients. So if you have any ideas, please type in the chat window so we can understand from you guys what you would like to see in addition, of course, to these sessions in which we discuss topics of your interest. All right, DL, there you go. We have the first participant here, DL. Hello, can you discuss the start date of paying Brazilian taxes with multiple entries in a year and as a permanent resident? Yes, DL. So there are two main triggers, okay? There are actually four in total, but the two other ones, they're too technical and they do not apply to the majority of foreign citizens. So let's talk about the two main ones, okay? The first main one, as you probably know, is the 183 days, meaning that if you stay in Brazil for up to 183 days in a 12-month period of time, you are a non-tax resident. However, if you stay 1 day longer, meaning that you stayed for 184 days, then you are a tax resident, okay? And this is not like January the 1st to December the 31st. It is actually within any 12-month period of time. So imagine that you have a rule, right? Like this rule is like for a period of 12 months, and this rule is gonna is gonna move along with you. Okay, so if you leave Brazil, let's say for 2 days, and you come back, this rule is gonna still trying to get you within the 183 days, right? So it does not matter how many times you leave Brazil and how many times you come back. The idea is that within any 12-month period of time, you cannot exceed 183 days. So that's the 183 days. And the other trigger is the permanent residency. The permanent residency works like this. Like, let's say if you are in Brazil for just a couple of years, right? So you are far away from 184 days. And you marry a Brazilian citizen, and because you hired a good firm like us, in an additional couple of months, you're going to get the permanent residency, right? So on the same day that you get the RNM number as a permanent resident, you're going to be considered as a tax resident, okay? Now, I told you about the triggers, but you asked me about the start date. I see that there is a nuance in your question, right? The start date. So the start date is a little bit tricky, because it's not going to be like you became a tax resident on the day that you achieved the permanent residency, but unfortunately, the tax residency actually goes back in time to the day when you entered Brazil. Okay, so in our example, you enter Brazil, let's say January the 1st, and then a couple of months later, let's say March the 1st, you achieved, like you married in Brazil, right? And then you applied for the residency, an additional couple of months, you got the permanent residency. So you're not gonna be a tax resident only on the day that you get in the RNM. This thing is gonna go back in time, and you're gonna be considered as a tax resident on the day when you entered Brazil. So in our example, you would be a tax resident since January the 1st, and not, let's say, March, April, May, not like May the 1st when you secured the RNM card, right? So the residency, like the tax residency, goes back in time to match the day when you entered Brazil. And similarly, when we work with the 183 days rule or the 184 days rule, it's going to work the same way. So if you've been for 183 days, there is no tax residency. Once you are 184 days in Brazil, then the same concept is going to apply. You're not going to become a tax, you become a tax resident on the 184th day, but it goes back in time, and you are considered as a tax resident from the first day of this 184 days period of time. It does not matter how many times you entered or left Brazil. Okay, DL, I hope that helps. If you have like a particular situation you want to have it reviewed, I recommend a consultation. You schedule a consultation, and we can do the exact calculations on the fly. Royland Walker, retirement visa. Yes, Royland, let's discuss about the retirement visa. The retirement visa is one of the most recurring topics here in our live stream, so I'm sure there's going to be questions. If you have a question, Royland, please let me know, and then we can get started with your question about the retirement visa. Benjamin Petrillo. Hey, I am in Brazil now looking to get a digital nomad visa. I have taken 2 30-day trips in the past 4 months, and now I'm here for a third time looking to stay. I'm probably about 70 days, right? So let's say if you are in Brazil for 70 days, you probably know you have 90 days as of now to stay in Brazil until the third quarter of last year. Extensions, they were a given. Okay, so basically everybody would get an extension. All you would need to do was to file for an extension. There is a website from the Brazilian government. You go over there, you schedule an appointment with the Polícia Federal, and again, until the third quarter of 2023, it was basically rubber stamping. That is changing as we speak, and we have news from multiple clients who are not getting the extension, right? Particularly because they go there with this mindset of, yes, I'm just need an extension because I want to stay more. And you know, the Polícia Federal is basically saying, listen, you need a better reason to stay in Brazil, right? If you want to stay longer, the correct path is for you to secure a more long-term visa and not to come here asking for an extension, because extension is for serious situations like you got involved in a car crash, you're sick, you cannot travel, and then of course they're going to give you an extension. But now, more often than not, they are going to decline extensions in Brazil. So my recommendation, Benjamin, if you are ready to move ahead with a digital nomad visa, you should act ASAP. Okay, happy to assist you with that if you need our help. DL, would the start date of taxable global income always be when residency is granted, regardless of previous entries or length of stay before receiving residency? So, not sure if you followed. Yeah, now I see another entry here. Thank you, that was clear. All right, DL, so we got you all set, Benjamin Petrillo. Should I still request an extension before my original 90 days is up, or can I use the 90 days? Benjamin, so again, I think you asked that question before. I was explaining about the extensions. The extensions are actually not being granted as often as it was the case last year anymore. And from a technical perspective, you must ask for an extension before your 90 days expire. Okay, so it's not like an option, right? Like to use up the 90 days and then ask for an extension. No, the correct way of asking for an extension is before the 90 days are up and you don't know if the Polícia Federal is going to have availability right away. So my recommendation is that you try to at least schedule the extension request for, I don't know, like 10 days or a week before your 90 days are up. And kind of very frequent, a lot of people, they mess up in their dates calculation. And when they show up to ask for an extension, guess what? There are fines and penalties already in place for them to take care. Okay, so that's another reason for you not to wait until the last day. Benjamin Petrillo, the border agent gave me 90 more days from my new date. Should I still need to file for an extension or use the 90 days? Yes, that's a difficult question, Benjamin, and I'm going to explain why. Agents at the border, right? Like they're busy with a ton of people coming through the airport. Usually they are not going to spend much time reviewing your case. And, in theory, they could give you a 90 days, even though you should not be getting 90 days. And then I guess this would be more of a practical question of whether or not the Polícia Federal is going to fine you or not, okay? So, of course, if you got 90 days, if the agent, stamped 90 days, he gave you 90 days, at least you have a very good defense. And if the Polícia Federal happens to fine you, you're going to have a good defense like, listen, I was relying on the border agent stamping, okay? And Polícia Federal, when there are such occasions of, agencies or Polícia Federal employees messing up with dates, almost always they are going to be pretty accommodating and void potential fines that they may apply despite the 90 days that they gave you, okay? Royland Walker, retirement visa taxes. All right, Royland. I think Royland is new here. Let's give Royland some attention. So Royland, for retirement visa, you're gonna need to pay taxes in Brazil. Okay, so considering you're not gonna be playing the 183, 184 day game, right? Like you're gonna stay in Brazil, enjoying your time without getting crazy about dates, because you have the retirement visa. Let's say if you get it for a couple of years. So yes, you're going to be paying taxes in Brazil, and taxes in Brazil, just like the US, they are going to apply to your global income. So let me assume you are from the United States, and if you are retired in Brazil, you don't have any income in Brazil, but you're going to pay taxes over your income from the US. All right. If you are paying any type of taxes in the U.S., most probably than not, all of those taxes, they are going to be applied as a credit against your tax liability in Brazil. And hopefully, at the end of the day, you're not going to have a huge tax liability, right? Some people complain, say, well, that's not fair. I don't want to pay taxes in Brazil. But if you think this question true, you're going to realize that you are enjoying the entire country infrastructure. And from this perspective, I think that paying some level of taxes is justified, particularly if you are getting credits for the taxes that you are paying in the U.S., which would reduce your tax load in Brazil, I think that this is reasonable from my perspective. All right, I know many applicants, many foreign citizens, they don't think this is fair. Others think it is fair, but from my perspective, I think it is a good call to charge residents some level of taxes. And considering the credits, this should not be a big burden, okay? We can assist you with tax filing here at the firm. That's a service we are providing as a priority for our current clients. If we have availability, we can take some clients from like clients who have not applied for the visa with us, if we have availability, okay? Feel free to schedule a consultation, Royland, if you want to discuss your particulars. If you have other topics about the retirement visa, let us know when we're going to discuss here during our live stream. Benjamin Petrillo, what would be a good reason for an extension, right? Would the digital nomad visa be a good reason? So, Benjamin, that's a good reason from my perspective. We had other clients in the same situation, and if they are too concerned about, like fines and timeline, we may tell them, listen, give a shot at the extension, particularly if you are collecting the documents to file the application. And particularly if you're taking these documents with you, right? Because then it's not just, it's not going to sound as an excuse, but it's going to sound as something legit. Because let's say if you have like your documents in a folder and you're showing to the police officer, to the officer at the Polícia Federal, listen, I'm working on the documents for the digital nomad. I just need some additional time to get to the point of applying for the digital nomad visa. Okay, so I do think it's a good reason, and I think it is worth a shot. Marky Mark, welcome, Marky. I think you are new here in our live stream. Lots of new people. Happy to see that. If I receive Social Security in the United States, I'm retired and moved to Brazil. Will I have to pay taxes in Brazil? Yes, Mark, you're going to have to pay taxes. I believe you do pay taxes in the U.S., and again, whatever you're paying in taxes, this is going to be credited against your tax liability in Brazil. But I can tell you that Social Security, yes, it is taxable in Brazil. All right, what else we have? Benjamin Petrillo, I sent you an email yesterday about consultation nomad visa. Where do I go to schedule an appointment with Polícia Federal? Benjamin, if you sent the email yesterday, it's going to be answered by today. We are answering our emails on a 24-hour base. Rest assured you're going to get an answer, okay? We're going to be happy to assist you with the digital nomad for the appointment with Polícia Federal. Let me see if I can share the link with you. There you go. You got the link, okay? So this is the link. That's where you go to apply for the extension. Now you got the link. Now if you're gonna work with us on the digital nomad visa, we actually handle those things for you, and you don't need to learn like the details about how to file. For the appointment, you need to pay a fee at Banco do Brasil. So even though it's a quite straightforward process, if you can have someone else handling that for you, I think it's gonna be way better. Okay. Royland Walker, it is worth it. Thank you, Royland. Appreciate it. Benjamin Petrillo, obrigado. You guys are pretty welcome. So just repeating our question. I see we have more participants right now than at the beginning of the live. So I was asking, topics of your interest for our future live streams. If you guys would like to hear about, some comments on ongoing news related, to foreign citizens living in Brazil, maybe interviews with past clients, right? Like there is one interview we are almost making it happen. Is like an interview with one of our previous clients. This gentleman, he actually has a digital nomad company, and what he does is basically he assists like people from the United States, like to understand, to learn Brazil, and he provides a kind of a crash course. It's super interesting. He rents like a really nice place in Rio de Janeiro, and he takes a group of U.S. citizens with him, and like he's gonna take, and it's a very eclectic group. Like there are, men, women, and different races, and even like U.S. citizens from all over the world, right? Like U.S. citizens are not only from the U.S., but there are many U.S. citizens who are originally from a different country. So it's a very eclectic group. Like I took a look at some of the beautiful pictures he took during this journey, and I said, listen, James, I want to join this group, right? Like, I mean, I am a Brazilian native, but it looks like so much fun. And believe it or not, like I want to join one of those crash courses, also to see, like the type of questions or the type of concerns that foreign citizens have like during this experience with James. But again, I'm trying to bring James for one of our live streams, and then we're probably going to do something for over an hour. Right now, our live streams are for just an hour. But once I'm able, to bring James on board, it's going to be for probably a couple of hours, okay? All right, let's see what else we have. Benjamin Petrillo also looking at buying property here. Can you go over types of deeds and which ones are needed to qualify for permanent residency visa? All right, so I see that Benjamin is asking important questions, right? Because some people, which is like difficult for me to understand the mindset, but some people, they are gonna go out there, they are gonna buy a property, and after they bought the property, they are gonna try to apply for the Brazil investment visa or investment residency. And the point is like it's not for every type of property. Only some properties are going to qualify, and it's not just about the property, it's also about how you buy the property. And again, it's mind-blowing for me to see people going out there and buying a couple of million reais property, and afterwards, coming to us for the application, right? That's not how you do it. You should get like assistance from the get-go, meaning that when you go shopping, you have someone to actually review the deed and to review the transaction and make sure that you're going to be getting something that's going to allow you to apply for the residency. So let me tell you about a few things. Like the first thing is that the property needs a formal deed, right? A formal deed, it's known in Portuguese. I'm going to write over here in the chat. Registro Geral do Imóvel. All right, so this is like how we call a formal deed in Portuguese, Registro Geral do Imóvel. And you're going to say, well, but doesn't every single property have a registro geral do imóvel. Believe it or not, no, that's not the case for every transaction. I'm going to give you an example. In Florianópolis, which is a major destination for foreign citizens traveling to Brazil, in Florianópolis, there is a bunch of properties, even like, properties for a couple of million reais that are not going to have a registro geral do imóvel, okay? And it does not matter how much paperwork you're going to have, how much paper the seller is going to give you. If you don't have a registro geral do imóvel, this property is not going to qualify for the investment visa or residency, okay? So this is pretty important for you to understand. Properties in the northeast of the country, Bahia, Pernambuco, Rio Grande do Norte, Paraíba, Ceará. It's also pretty common that properties in those areas are not going to have a registro geral do imóvel. And if that's the case, this property is not going to work for you. You got to move on to the next property. So that's the first thing about, properties qualifying. A couple of other examples of factors that are going to preclude a property from qualifying are going to be if you're buying a rural property. Lots of foreign citizens, they come to our firm and they say, listen, I love, like nature. I don't want to be in a crowded city. I want to buy a really large tract of land, and that's what I want to buy. And then, unfortunately, we need to tell them, well, you can buy it, but first thing, it cannot be very big because there are constraints, there are restrictions for foreign citizens buying rural property when it comes to the size. So that's the first problem. And the second problem is if you buy a rural property is not going to be acceptable for the investment visa, okay? There is the so-called, I'm going to write down something here for you, Resolução Normativa number 36 from CENIG. So Resolução Normativa number 36 means like a regulation number 36 from the Department of Brazilian Immigration, and they kind of pinpoint some things that are not going to be acceptable for this property. And they are going to say that rural properties are not going to qualify for the visa. Another thing that trips foreign citizens very often is that in addition to being urban property, you must have a construction on the land. So if, lots of, foreign citizens as well, they come to us and they say, well, you know what, I want to buy a plot of land and I want to build myself because then I'm going to save money because I'm building. And second, I'm going to build the way I like it because I come from abroad. In my native country, properties are like this, are like that. They are not like in Brazil. And I want to have things done my way. The problem is that the bare land is not going to qualify for the visa application. And if you buy the land and if you build something on it, the paperwork that you're going to have is going to reflect the bare land because that's what you bought. The money that you sent from abroad, it was for the bare land. So you cannot buy the land first and build something and then, go to the immigration and say, well, now it's not bare land. You can see that I built something. But at that point in time, the transaction is not what the immigration was expecting to see, and the property is not going to qualify. Okay? The other nuance about construction is that there is an exception, and the exception is actually described in Resolução Normativa number 36. The exception is when you buy a pre-construction apartment with a established developer. Okay, if you're buying a pre-construction company, the Brazilian immigration is going to accept some alternative paperwork to show that even though there is no construction, you are dealing with a established developer, and they are going to ask for something called Memorial de Incorporação. Memorial de Incorporação is going to show to the Brazilian immigration that you are buying a property that even though there is no construction yet, there is already a plan and there is already an approval in place for a large apartment building to be built. And based on this paperwork, potentially you can get the investment visa. Right. Let's see. Benjamin Petrillo, I remember a little while ago you said they are in the middle of redoing certain visa requirements. How do you feel about permanent visa remaining 1 million reais? Is there a chance they will remove it? So the changes that are being applied, Benjamin, they are, just like most things for this current administration, they are, ideology oriented. Okay, so they try to have a spin that's going to reflect the current administration. So I took a look at the most recent updates, like to immigration regulation, and they now are trying to get a, I kid you not, like the green visa. Okay, the green visa is like the new invention from the current administration, meaning that if you have like projects. To preserve nature, if you have, like a company or a business, or if you're doing the, research, you could get a permanent residency based on this kind of green initiatives, right? That's what I saw coming as like a new visa so far. Now, in terms of the existing ones, I think if they have plans like to remove a visa or to change, they are going to try to avoid publicizing that, because the Brazilian Congress is not actually very happy with the Brazilian federal administration trying to change things, because the reality is the immigration framework brought by President Bolsonaro, it works just great, right? Like, there was no retirement visa, there was no digital nomad visa, there was no real estate investment visa before President Bolsonaro, right? So I think the current administration, maybe they could try to change the name, maybe they could try to change the amount required, but I don't think they are going to get rid of it. Probably because those visas, they are bringing a boatload of money to Brazil. And at the end of the day, ideologies aside, the administration needs money to get things done. So I don't think they are going to get rid of any of those visas. However, if you think that the investment visa has been requiring the 1 million reais since 2018, I think it is only reasonable to expect that this amount is going to be eventually updated, Benjamin. Okay, so I think there is a pretty good chance they are going to kind of update the 1 million reais. But I don't think they are going to remove it. I think they would love to get rid of things done by the prior administration. They would love to do that, but they are not going to shoot themselves in their foots, right? They want the money. They want the money that all of those visas are bringing to the country, and therefore I don't think they are going to get rid of any of those visas. All right, GJ, the tourist visa requirements say they want to see a water, energy, or gas bill and the application name. What if my name isn't on a utility bill? What I can show then instead of this? DJ, so they cannot probably address every type of situation. But what we see happening with other immigration procedures, which could be, a kind of a parallel or some type of guideline for you to follow. There are two approaches. Usually, you can present something that's not exactly a utility bill. So you could try a phone bill or a bank account bill, right? A bank account statement. Those two things would potentially have your name on it and an address, and that could potentially work. Now, important for you to know, like the tourist visa, although it's handled online by an outsourced company. This outsourced company, they do not actually approve the tourist visas. They send the applications to consulates of Brazil to handle the approval on behalf of the Brazilian government, which kind of makes sense. The Brazilian government would not outsource the decision. The Brazilian government is outsourcing the e-visa platform, but the Brazilian government is not outsourcing the process of making a decision in terms of giving you the visa or not. So that's why I'm explaining that, because it's not guaranteed. It's going to depend on the consular employee handling the application, but I think it's pretty reasonable to expect that a phone bill, I don't know if you're from the U.S. I'm going to assume you are from the U.S., Australia, or Canada. And let's say if you are in the U.S., if you have a phone bill with Verizon, T-Mobile, whatever you use for your phones, like this should work. And the same thing for a bank statement. Okay, so that would be my recommendation. Another approach, which is kind of common when we're dealing with immigration in Brazil, and that could work for the tourist visa as well, is to have, let's say, if you are living with your parents, like you could have a utility bill on one of your parents' names, and then you could have a letter from your parents saying that you live with them, and then this letter should be notarized. That's exactly what we do in Brazil when we are applying for the permanent residency based on marriage. Is super common, for the new couple. They arrive in Brazil, they don't have a place of their own, and they are living with someone, and this someone is gonna actually produce a utility bill, and they are gonna provide this letter confirming that the couple is living with this person, and then this letter being notarized is gonna work as a proof of address. So there you go, DJ, a couple of options. Benjamin Petrillo, another question, going to try to get criminal records for my state or country for the nomad visa. I think you meant county, right? Right, Benjamin? It looks like you are watching our videos, or you had a consultation with us before. Because, for those who do not know, the digital nomad visa, usually, they are going to be fine. Now, if you are applying in Brazil, Benjamin, that's the caveat. That's the caveat. If you are applying in Brazil, most probably than not, the Polícia Federal, and it is your case, right, Benjamin? Now I remember you are in Brazil, like you have like the 70 days thing. If you are in Brazil, most probably than not, like the Polícia Federal would accept like state court records. We have many clients from New York. Clients from New York who say, listen, go to the New York court system. It's pretty easy to get online criminal records from the state level, and we never had an issue. We never had an issue with using state records from New York. In terms of a county, in terms of county, it depends on whether the county produces something that's gonna bear, the county seal and stamp, and it's gonna be like a convincing type of criminal records, right? Like, I mean, some counties, they are going to have something that's going to just say no results found, and it's not going to even show any type of language. In this case, we're going to refrain from using the county records. But the bottom line is, like, you gotta look like something that's official from a either municipality, a county, a state, right? Like, I mean, of course, if you were in the States, you could just do the FBI background check based on fingerprints. That's like the gold standard. That's the gold standard of background checks. But as you are not in the U.S., the next best option is going to be either state or county. Okay, Benjamin. So yes, from my state, I just saw your question. Now, from my state, yes, the state should be fine. But like when we are applying for the digital nomad, that's something we're gonna do. We're gonna remove the guessing work. So you're not gonna take the chances, right? Like you're gonna apply with solid documentation based on your particular situation, so we can get you the digital nomad visa without too much worries, right? And it happens all the time for people who try to apply by themselves or who hired another firm and were not able to get what they needed to come to us and finally get what they were looking for. And you could see that in some of our reviews. You're gonna see people saying that they tried to do the application with another firm, it didn't work, and then they came to us and we were able to fix the problem. Okay, let's see if we have other questions over here. All right, I would like to see interviews with past clients who are living in Brazil under the Brazil retirement visa. Yes, that's a good idea. I think we're gonna try to select, the thing is, like, we have a pretty good relationship with our clients, and we do work hard to get, this type of relationship with our clients. But not surprisingly, like most of them are not super excited to be recorded talking about their private plans and like where they are, what they do. Like, it's not super common, right? I would assume some clients would be willing, but we are seeing that it's not often the case. So we need to find some of our clients who are going to be willing to share with this community of people interested in Brazil, and to help other people understand that this is doable, this is feasible, and we are here to help. But yes, that's a good idea to have maybe a client per segment, right? Like, so a client for the retirement visa, another client for the digital nomad visa, another client for the marriage-based permanent residency, another client for the permanent residency by investment, and so on. Yes, great idea. All right, let me take a look at our questions. Benjamin Petrillo, do you have that guy's name or company with the course on Brazil? Feels exactly that I need to learn the laws and getting around here. Yes, Benjamin. Let me try to find out right now. I'm gonna be pleased to share, and I don't think he's gonna mind, because it's his business, right? It's his business. And I think he's gonna love to do that. All right, nomad without limits. All right, so I'm gonna write down nomad without limits. James Weldon. James Weldon is the owner. Nomads without limits. Yeah, this guy, he has a beautiful website, and it's lovable. If you guys take a look, he's like right on the cover, and I guarantee if you guys work with James, you're gonna have a blast. And don't be surprised if I'm there, right? Like I've been trying to participate in one of his programs for a while now. I'm trying not to share. Like I did share his website. He has like a contact form. I don't want to share his private information. This guy is our client, right? Like I mean, I can't share like client's information. I'm sharing about his business. I want to see if I have something like an email I can share with you guys. James Weldon. James Weldon, right? James Weldon. Yeah. So yes, you guys gotta go. Like you have the website. You can get in touch. There is a contact form. I'm sure he's gonna get in touch with you guys. And he does, like, I think he does multiple cities. It's not just Rio de Janeiro. So Benjamin is here taking a trip to the south in a few weeks, Florianópolis, Gramado, and Curitiba. Yeah, so James, like, he does multiple cities, Benjamin. So, try to check on his schedule. And I'm sure you're going to find something that's going to meet your requirements, okay? But yes, this is one of our clients, right? The owner of Nomad Without Limits. He's our client for multiple services. Again, is no private information, but he did use our service for multiple things. Okay, so I'm sure you guys are gonna have a blast with him. Let's see if we have any other questions. All right, Royland Walker, interested in the retirement visa. So Royland, a retirement visa. One of the things that I see tripping most people is like the retirement age and proof of retirement. Usually the Brazilian government, Brazilian immigration is not really concerned about those things. The concern is that you have a retirement income. The idea here is that you, as a retiree in Brazil, is going to have a solid, consistent source of income. So Brazil is not asking for people to be like 75 olds, right? Some people say, well, what is the minimum age? There is no minimum age. In multiple videos, like we said, we were able to approve a gentleman in his studies. And the bottom line is like you need to have a retirement income. In our experience, a retirement income of at least $1,000. The matching regulation says actually $2,000, but there is a way for you to qualify by getting proofs of additional streams of income, even if the income is not retirement. So let me explain again. You need to show at least $2,000 in income. Out of this $2,000, the Brazilian immigration, they do not say how much it must be retirement income. But in our experience, like a borderline case, it was an applicant with just $1,000 of retirement income, and he was able to bring other incomes to the table. So he had a Vanguard fund. He had like a small rental property. So altogether, we could show that the applicant had over $2,000 a month in income, although only a single thousand was actually retirement. But the Brazilian immigration accepted because the regulation says you must have $2,000 of retirement income, but if you don't have $2,000 of retirement income, you can add some additional income from other sources to achieve the 2,000. So their language, it doesn't specify what is the minimum that should be in retirement income, but this language does allow for you to provide additional types of income to reach the $2,000 a month requirement. Okay, Ryland. So this is on the income. So we talked about the minimum age. There is no minimum age. There is also no need for you to provide a proof of retirement per se. The way that the immigration is going to interpret that you are retired is whether you have retirement income. Now, they being very accommodating in terms of what qualifies as retirement income. For instance, we saw annuities. Okay, annuities, not necessarily a retirement income per se. Of course, it's not Social Security. It's not like a pension fund. It's still the Brazilian immigration, when they see annuity, you gotta be perpetual annuities, right? Like, because there are some annuities that are for just like 10 years or for 20 years. The annuities that the Brazilian immigration is expecting to see are gonna be those annuities that are gonna pay you until the time of your death. There's some annuities that are gonna be going even beyond that. After you die, they could pay like your beneficiary for an additional 10 years. But the bottom line is like they want to make sure that once you enter Brazil as a retiree, you're going to have a consistent, permanent income for you to enjoy Brazil. And that's the bottom line for you to qualify for the retirement visa. Of course, you also need to provide the criminal records. If you have, a DUI, usually we are able to approve applicants with DUIs. If you have like a misdemeanor, something that wasn't serious, maybe, like a bar fight when you were in your 20s, if it's just a misdemeanor, usually we can approve. When you have a felony, then it starts to become more challenging. But we also have some ways to minimize the impact of a felony. And then if your application is going to be approved or not is going to actually depend on the specifics of your case. But a consultation would be recommended. In terms of destination, that's another question we hear quite often. And it varies, a lot. It really depends on the person applying for the retirement visa. Some people, they are gonna love Rio de Janeiro. They don't want to go to any other place. They love Rio de Janeiro, Copacabana. Rio de Janeiro, it has so many destinations, right? Like the state as a whole. I know that Rio de Janeiro city, of course, is a worldwide name. Right, I like to say that Rio de Janeiro is on the same level in terms of being attractive as New York. Maybe not right now, right? Like New York, I think is not the same, unfortunately, anymore. But whenever you think about global cities, you think about New York, Paris, London, Rio de Janeiro, and Tokyo, right? Like these cities are on the same level. And Rio de Janeiro is right there. But in addition to the city, of Rio de Janeiro. There is also the entire state of Rio de Janeiro. The state itself is beautiful. Like there are so many coastal cities. You guys probably heard about, Angra dos Reis, Búzios, Ilha Grande, Paraty. There is no shortage of amazing cities by the Rio de Janeiro State Beach. Now, other people, they are gonna want to go to the Northeast, right? Like the good thing about the Northeast is that, like if you're going to Bahia, Ceará, U.S. citizens are only now discovering the state of Ceará, but Ceará has been a big choice for Europeans for 50 years, okay? So you go to Ceará, like you see French people, you see Italians, you see British guys, British gals, all over the place. It's unbelievable the number of Europeans that you guys gonna see in Ceará. And I particularly love Ceará. I am in Ceará a good part of the year. And I do recommend, like, if you haven't been to the Northeast before you settle for a destination as a retiree, you should visit the Northeast because in addition to being like a place that has its own merits as a destination, in addition to that, like beautiful beaches, your money is gonna go much further than it would be the case in Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro, particularly if you are, like in the most sought after beaches, like they're quite expensive, properties for rental, or if you're going out for, for dinner, if you're gonna, enjoy leisure activities, everything, of course, is gonna be a more expensive in Rio de Janeiro than they are in the northeast of Brazil. So for sure, make sure to check the northeast of Brazil. Florianopolis is also a major destination for retirees, digital nomads. They love Florianopolis. Florianopolis has a whole startup scene. Like the city of Florianopolis, it has a lot of developers, technology people, money people. Almost like somewhat like Silicon Valley in Brazil. It could be like Florianopolis. The south of Brazil, it's colder, okay? It's colder, so not sure if like people really enjoy like Rio Grande do Sul, which is like the last state like towards the south. But Santa Catarina, which is the second state from the bottom up, it's a major destination for foreign citizens. I have a friend of mine, James Rocks, like who's a realtor in Florianopolis. He says he lived in the Northeast for a lot of time, but he settled down like in Florianopolis because actually in the south of Brazil you have like well-defined seasons, like summer is summer, winter is winter. You have autumn, you have spring, and when you are like in Rio, like you don't see such distinctions in seasons. So there are lots of options. I see Royland here chiming in. Rio is the best in the world, sir. I'm afraid to second that, Royland, because otherwise I have clients who are going to be mad at me. But I don't think you are wrong. Okay, let's say like this, Royland. I don't think you are wrong. Rio is an amazing city, and if I was not to pick the Northeast, which honestly is my first option, Rio would be my next one, okay? And I'm from São Paulo, by the way. I'm not from Rio de Janeiro, so I think that means something, right? Even though I'm from São Paulo, some people think there is a rivalry between São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. Of course, this is just like a joke. Like São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro are probably two of the main cities in Brazil. And I absolutely love Rio de Janeiro. If I'm not in the northeast of Brazil, Rio de Janeiro and Brasilia are my favorite like big city destinations, okay? So guys, we've been together for an hour. I appreciate your participation. I see We have, new people here joining our live stream. You guys are welcome to participate as many times as you want. I know some people, they come only on Sundays. Not everyone can participate on Wednesdays. That's fine. But thank you very much for participating. Remember, our new live stream, our next live stream is going to be on Sunday, February the 25th. So if you had any topics that were not discussed today, you are welcome to come on Sunday. You are welcome to come on Sunday and have your topics discussed here live. All right. Thank you again for participating, and I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day.